Welcome to Sovereign Mamas, the podcast sanctuary for visionary women who are building lives, businesses, and legacies in alignment with their feminine power. I'm your host, Julia Jerg, intuitive business coach, mama of two, and systems strategist for soul-led entrepreneurs. Here, we honor both your sacred role as a mama and your wild vision as a changemaker. Expect soul-aligned strategy, raw storytelling, behind the scenes, and powerful conversations that support you in scaling your business without sacrifice. If you're done choosing between success and sovereignty, you're home. Let's begin. All right, welcome back everyone to the Sovereign Mamas podcast, where motherhood and entrepreneurship coexist and where we share stories of amazing women who are redefining leadership and where we live by our truth and not just as an idea or a concept. It's our daily devotion. So today's conversation is one I've been really looking forward to. I'm joined by Kristen Nagle, and she is a former NICU nurse turned faith-led entrepreneur. And her story is inspiring, and I can't wait to ask all the questions and hearing a really exceptional way of reclaiming strength and sovereignty. So let me dive in by just saying hello and welcome, Kristen. Like I said, I'm really looking forward to asking you all the questions. How are you today?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
Amazing, amazing. So, Kristen, you share, or your story is really one of deep courage. And I feel so much resonance because there's a lot of things that remind me of myself. And yet, I want to hear how you walked away from the system and a system that once defined you. You were so in it. And now, can you take us back to that moment when, um, you know, when you made the decision, or maybe obviously it's never the one point, but what was stirring in your spirit that told you you have to just like, it's time to leave?
It wasn't really anything, I would say. It wasn't even my decision. It was a long little journey of layers being pulled back one by one. And it started, that was my oldest that came in. But
Yeah.
it started with him. So in 2015, when he was born, I I was kind of like, I now look at it as this divine intervention. It kept being pressed on my heart, like, look into what you're going to feed your baby. What are his first foods going to be? What are you going to feed him? And I thought, well, I'm a pediatric nurse. We learned this in school. Of course, I know what to feed my baby, but it kept being pressed on my heart. And I was like, okay, fine. I'll look into it. So as he's napping, new baby in my arms, I started a documentary, and I was like, oh, well, that was really interesting. Didn't know that. Started another one and another one. And then it just kind of went from there, where I became obsessed with this knowledge of food and our children and health. And that was my first entry door into, I guess that you could say, like the corruption or the lies, or, the programming that we have. And I got so interested in it that I actually went to school to become a holistic nutritionist. So I was enrolled at the Canadian School of Natural Nutrition, became a registered holistic nutritionist. And during that time, my second son was born. And I remember that's when all the light bulb moments went off in class, because I was like, okay, well, health is so easy. Why didn't I learn this as a nurse? Why aren't we doing this? And my first son, I always say, like, he introduced me to taking care of the physical body. And my second son was there to kind of learn to trust the body. So he was there to trust our divine design, where I decided, okay, no injections, no more. And I started to peel back those layers. And I started to find my voice around that time in 2018. So it was kind of this like slow progression from 2015, 2018, and then it just kind of continued from there. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so interesting. And naturally, when you or do bold or make bold moves, and you transition back or come to your power. So how did that ripple out in your surrounding? How did your family, your friends receive that?
I thought it was really interesting that when I was in school for food, to be a holistic nutritionist, it was very well received. People seemed to gravitate and want to learn more what they could do for their health. What could they eat? What could, better nourish their lives? But As soon as I took it one step further, where I was like, okay, we don't need these injections, all of a sudden, all the walls went up. I was, just kind of dismissed, now kind of on the borderline. I went on the crazy side, and no one wanted to hear any further of what I had to say. And so I thought that was really interesting that people will kind of listen up to a point until it really rocks their comfort zone, and
Yeah.
then would start to kind of dismantle their understanding and programming. And then it's too much. They don't want to go past that comfort. Food, one thing, but if you start talking about the body and how unnecessary injections are, well, one, if you're a nurse, that's been part of your career, you're administering them. Two, a lot of times you've probably given them to your own child, and it's a lot to process when you realize like you're a part of it and it's all been a lie. So I started speaking out pretty boldly about it because I realized just this betrayal in my career, what I was a part of, what I was doing to other children. As mentioned, I worked with babies in the neonatal intensive care unit. I did that for 14 years. So I was very much a part of the problem. And as I started to witness this, I could see more of what was happening in the unit. I was watching what was happening when we would give our babies these injections. I was watching them just completely regress. Their heart rate would stop, their breathing would stop. They'd have to go back on intensive ventilation, and I'd start asking questions, and I was just dismissed as crazy and just put aside. And I started to get bullied at work. My College of Nurses was already on to me at that time. I was already brought into a disciplinary meeting, and I wasn't ready at that point to lose my career, or go through what that would look like through disciplinary. So, I took the slap on the wrist. You're right. I'm wrong. I won't do it again. I'm sorry. But I remember leaving that meeting, and it all wrapped up around 2019. And I remember saying to my rep, my legal rep there, that if they ever tried to come after my children again or mandate anything, there's nothing that will stop me at that point from speaking up. And it's just so fascinating how, God works, his perfect timing. I just
Yeah.
didn't expect it to be so soon. So all this was wrapped up in 2019. And then here we are starting to ramp up into,
Wow.
Wuhan was being talked about December 2019, and then everything to come from that. And I was like, oh my gosh, I guess I'm following through with what I
You
said.
have
So it
to.
kind of just went from there.
You said it. Wow. I want to, so many things popped up. First of all, isn't it crazy how our children come into our lives and that they just drop their mission or our mission into our laps now. There you go, deal with something. And I have a similar story with my little one who was born with a genetic defect. And even before that, so my 8-year-old, I experienced the exact same thing. Like I watched documentaries on sugar, food, how it affects you when you're pregnant. So I went through a whole rabbit hole, going all the way through and down and watched that and completely changed my diet and everything before he even was born. And so once you see, right, you can't put the veil on back on. So once you are clear on one thing, it takes you to the next and to the next and to the next. And then suddenly you're like, oh my gosh, like you say, you're in this. I was more like in a phase of or state of, how is this possible? Like, how is this possible? Uh, and then, yeah, you have to be not careful, but it depends on who you talk to. It always ends up being a good conversation or you being the crazy one.
Yeah.
And and then, yeah, 2020 happens and you're taking it a step further. Now, where were you at that point in
I was here
2020 in
Yeah,
the US?
working, back to work. I took a year and a half maternity leave with my second son.
Mhm.
So I went back, it would have been sometime in 2019. And so back in the neonatal intensive care unit in London, Ontario. And I just remember just kind of being like, oh, this is it. Like, knew they're going to come, they're going to mandate this, and trying to speak to things at work, but quickly realizing how ostracized I was. And I remembered that we fought for years, for nurses to not wear masks during flu season, quote unquote flu season from November to April. And in 2018, we finally won, where our
Mm.
union rep proved that not only is it discriminatory, that it is ineffective. It does not stop transmission. And so I was so excited. Yes, finally, we don't have to wear these masks if you don't get the flu shot. And then I was just so flabbergasted to watch these intelligent nurses that fought for the same thing, all of a sudden just throw it back on their face when we had proved that it is discriminatory but does not stop transmission. But their pushback was, but this is different. But is it the same size? Is that like is it, if you believe in that? I don't even believe in viruses now. That's a whole other conversation. But I mean, if
Yeah.
you do believe that, is it not the same? Does it not transmit the same? Like, is it? And I couldn't believe it. So I quickly realized how outnumbered I was. That I was being ostracized, I was being cast aside. Colleagues were afraid of me because I was living my life normally outside of the workplace, not wearing a mask, attending rallies and events. And they reported me to management, where I ended up being suspended for not wearing proper PPE. Because when I was alone, I'd pull my mask down below my nose a little bit. When I was by myself, I put my eye goggles on my head, and that was terrifying for them. And so I ended up being suspended. And while suspended, I attended a rally. I watched this mom stand up and organize this on her own, and I was like, I can do that. I can actually put my words into action. And I hosted with a friend one of our hometown London's first largest rally. There was 200 people that showed up at that time in the middle of a blizzard, November 22nd, 2020. And I was so proud of what we had accomplished. I knew my career was over, knew all these things were going to happen. But what I was not ready for was the media. I was still naive to that. And
Mm.
the next morning, woke up to headlines just everywhere, about Kristen Nagle, LHSC, NICU nurse putting premature babies in danger.
Mm.
And I can
Yeah.
imagine how that article would go. Mhm.
Mm.
Mhm.
So this is really something like when people are, or it's like in all the historical points where we can see that fear-based reactions or fear-based led movements, let's call them movements, um, how they, yeah, how they even manipulate the most intelligent people, right?
Yeah,
So it
exactly.
comes down to this really, um, yeah, it doesn't, it's not anymore a matter of fact how much you studied or how much you like build up a career. It's really this, huh, like either you trust and it's faith-based, right? Either you trust and then really lean back and say, no, for me, it doesn't feel right, no matter what you say. Oh, and it takes so much courage. And it gives me goosebumps because it also reminds me of that moment. We were in Thailand when it all started. And I had my children vaccinated. They were both 6 months and nearly 2 years old at that time. And then all of a sudden around us, those alternative families, world schooling, traveling out there, bright people, most of them, they just like fell down and they said, no, we got to go back to our home countries. We gotta follow because it seemed like the most dangerous thing to do to stay on this tropical island. Hang on. You okay?
Yeah, I'm okay. I didn't know who was coming in. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, good. So yeah, anyway, so I just don't know. I sometimes am wondering where do I get like where did I get my balls from? Because I was really like, no, I'm not leaving here. This feels right. I feel like I'm in a safe space. I feel like I'm in this bubble. I feel like everything else sounds crazy and dangerous. Why would I move my family to somewhere where they even have more cases, where it's it's clearly exploding and
Yeah.
stuff? But how did it make, like, how did you, where do you think your boldness came from, or your courage to stand up? And even then, in that moment, the media, the spotlight, like, how did you go through all of that?
I don't know what started it. I just remember that Like my mom will tease, like I couldn't take bullshit. Like for, like I actually wanted to kind of like, follow rules that made sense. I did respect authority in school, but I would never, um, just when things didn't make sense, I would question them. Like I just could never stand for like BS. So like that I would, like question and stand up for and things like that. But I remember there just came a point where it was harder to stay silent. It
Mhm.
just was killing my soul. I was dying inside, trying to play along, go to work and see the lies and see the harm, getting the stories from other mothers and parents telling me what was happening to their children, like 6 year olds talking about hating their life and pretending to cut their wrists. Like I was like, I can't, it just, it just got too hard to ignore everything that was going on that I had to say something. It was almost just out of me, like beyond me. And but after that media debut, my character destroyed, watching all the comments come through, people that I thought were friends, people that knew me in the community, all of a sudden it's like they forgot who I was, just my reputation, character, everything completely destroyed in an instant. And I was placed under investigation by my College of Nurses. So I got to see all the disclosures, like all the written reports about me that were sent in. And I collapsed. I don't think I've ever been in that much pain and betrayal in my life. And I just kind of stopped. I remember exactly where I was in this moment, just actually collapsed on the ground, like inconsolably sobbing. And this was kind of, you hear the expressions like just brought me to my knees. And I wasn't a believer at this time, but I prayed. I had nothing else. Everything just seemed like it was gone, and I didn't know what else to do, even family, friends, all the things, right? And it was get up, like get up. Otherwise, it's all going to be for nothing. And I was, found Ephesians 6:10 and, put on the armor. And that's what I did. I put on the armor, started to ask questions, build up my faith, kind of understand that. This was all new to me coming into this faith, but I put on that armor and I kept going. I found other nurses speaking out in the States. We linked arms, found another nurse in Canada, two others. We linked arms, and then we just supported each other, and we just knew that we had to keep going. And this was when it was unpopular, right? This is like 2020. This is not 2022 when it was safe and easy for everyone to come out. This was really challenging, hard times when everyone was against you. But we formed Canadian Frontline Nurses. We spoke all across the country in Canada, tried to bring awareness, form groups, community, and get resources and solutions moving forward. And yeah, we kept going until 2022 was kind of I spent 4 weeks in Ottawa, living out of a hotel room at the convoy, face to face with the officers. Was experienced all of it. And I remember after that moment, it was like, okay, we did it, got through it, I learned everything I needed to learn in that moment. And now it's time to stop fighting. And now it's time to create freedom instead. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm. Ah, wonderful. I love it. You describe motherhood also like as your greatest teacher. Can you speak into that? What your children have taught you, or even more specifically, what have they taught you about trusting and surrendering? And if you do need
Yeah.
to tend to them, are they
I
okay?
was going to say, as you know, here's a perfect example:
Yeah.
mothering, surrendering, them screaming in the background. It's just what we do. It's
You're on the perfect show. Everyone understands and has compassion.
yeah.
It's perfect.
No, it's just, it's life. It's you
It
ebb
is.
and flow with motherhood. You have great days where they flow and we all get along. And then you have those moments of just like screaming and your nervous
Mhm.
system feels like it's going like this. And that's what we do. We just learn how to keep moving forward. But each of my children taught me something very special. So as mentioned, my first son was about the physical body. My
Mhm.
second son was learning how to trust our perfect divine design, exactly how we are created. And my third daughter taught me how to embody all of it. So, as I had mentioned, I was an NICU nurse. I actually feared birth. I thought home birth should be illegal. I was like super indoctrinated into the system. Like, I had two hospital births, epidurals, like all the things, the labor funnel, like textbook, hospital births with my first two, especially my first. Stretch and sweep, like all these horrific things that I just thought were normal at that point until so as the layers were peeling, right, I'm learning about injections, all these things. I'm seeing what's going on in 2020. I'm seeing more of the harms in the hospitals, like what they're doing to these pregnant mothers. And I finally was like, there has to be another way. I remember finally towards my last days in the hospital watching these mothers in labor and finally realizing that we were the problem. And I just could not um, the veil was lifted. I could never see things differently. The babies we took away from mothers because they weren't a certain weight. The babies we took away because we thought we had to, cutting the placenta or the cord, the umbilical cord immediately, the episiotomy, just all of it, horrific. And I just realized we're causing the problems that we're then saving these, saving them from. And
Mm.
I wasn't sure if we'd have, another again. I remember feeling robbed of an experience that I never knew existed once I finally understood about undisturbed physiological birth and what our bodies are capable of, what we're designed to do, and how incredible it is. I felt robbed of knowing that experience. And we had two losses throughout, but we were blessed with baby girl. Um, and I was nearing 40, had absolutely zero tests, none. I was out of the system. And I realized I had to take everything that I had been speaking at protest and I had to embody it of that full surrender, that full trust, that full just knowing what, the outcome is out of my hands. And it was the most peaceful pregnancy I'd ever experienced because I wasn't asking for permission. I wasn't looking for results. I wasn't looking for someone else to tell me if everything was okay or not. I just had to come inward and surrender. We were, knit together in our mother's womb in the secret place. That's Psalm 139. And I remember that really sticking out to me was like, yes, it is the secret place. No one's eyes are supposed to be on that. We're not supposed to see what's going on there. That is just for God. That is for us. That's just this beautiful, intimate place that no one should have eyes in to see. And so I didn't. And it was beautiful, just full surrender, full trust, and just growing baby. And it was, like I said, the most peaceful pregnancy I had experienced to that date. And, I was geriatric pregnancy, advanced maternal age. And it was so beautiful. She was born at home with traditional birth companions, completely out of the system, with my husband at my side. My boys slept through it pretty much until towards the end, they stepped over me to get to, our bedroom to go sleep. But it was one of the, I felt it intensely in my back, and it was one of the hardest things I'd gone through, but it was also the most incredible thing I'd ever experienced. And
Mm.
just fully being like, wow, that's what we're capable of. That's what our bodies are capable of. That's what women can do. That's what we can do. And then our partner's there to witness that and come together as this team to bring this life into the world and then to be there together as a family uninterrupted. And I just thought everyone needs to know this is available to them. Everyone needs to know this. And that is how Reclaiming Birth Conference came to be, because we need to get
Yeah.
this information out to everyone. Sorry, you asked me about motherhood, but it's all the stories.
Oh,
That's all
no.
the layers of how all three of my children, including my losses, have just kind of shaped this path and trajectory of where I'm headed. Yeah, with them.
Yeah. Perfect, perfect lineup. And that would have been my next question. So, talk about the Reclaiming Birth conference. What is it for? So, obviously, to shed some light on what you just described. And I'm so passionate about this as well. I home birthed my second one after going to the hospital with the first, where I felt like, hang on, the only really distraction and interruption was the way our trip to the hospital. Before that, I was in the zone. I was at home, like doing my thing, and I could feel like I'm nearly there. And then everyone around me, like, was like pressuring to say, you need to be in the hospital right now. And I felt like, no. But then, as you do, right? You don't know until you wake up and say, hang on, I could have done that at home. I wasn't almost
Mhm.
giving birth at home. And so my second one was a home birth. And yeah, so tell me, so you're now sharing this and want
Yeah.
women to know that they can do it.
Yes, yes, just how we're created at this,
Mhm.
just that how sacred it is, the power in that, and yes, it's intense, and yes, it can be hard, but it also is the most incredible thing that a woman can go through, that strength, that power that we realize, that trust, that full surrender, that all of it, and bringing life into this world, like, it is just one of the most incredible things that we can do, and to do that with our partners at our side and bring life, and realizing that if we can do this, then we can continue to stand for our children and bring them through life
Mhm.
despite all the challenges and everything. And we know that we can fight for them, create for them, and build this new, create freedom for them. Like, we can create life, we can create this new way forward with them. And so we have just wrapped up this past September our third year. It is now, I would say, an international global conference with the people that are attending and where it's getting out. And the first year started with just wanting to educate about physiological birth. What does that mean? What does that look like? What does it look like when you just trust the hormones and everything to take place and understand what's happening with you, baby, and the entire process, right? What does that look like? And then the second year came more into, we have to give things names, because as we create the new, we have to heal where we've been. And there has been a lot of, trauma, obstetrical violence, rape. Our bodies have been, adulterated in that system, and we have to give it a name so we can heal it, so we can move forward. And
Mhm.
this third year, we thought it was really important to bring the men into the conversation, because so much, it's geared towards, the women, the mothers, how will you birth? But the men aren't really a part of the conversation. But it's really bizarre because they created the baby, they're a part of it, and they're going to raise the baby together as a family. So we wanted the men to understand what the whole process look like, not just with the physiological birth, but to understand their role as the protectors, as the advocates, as holding the family unit together, as the head of the family, where they create the safe environment, so their partner, the mother, can feel safe in getting out of her body, or getting out of her head, to allow her body to do what it knows what to do best. But she can only do that if she feels safe, and that is the role of the father to do that. And so we did bring the men into the conversation this year, and it was really powerful. And we're really excited for where next year is going to go. We wanted to kind of get back, kind of going into a full circle, get back to, what does birth look like? What can it look like? What does it mean? And just really getting back to nature, right? It's reclaiming. So it was ours, has always been ours, and getting back into that remembering of what that is in our body, and stepping away from the fear and the programming that still lingers. You
Mhm.
can't you can't straddle the line in birth. You will birth how you live. Your body knows, even if you think you want an outcome, do you really believe it? Do you trust it? Do you embody it? So it's really trying to remove the fear and get into that full body trust. So that's what we're going to work towards in, for our fourth year coming up. And we're really excited. It's for families, mothers, fathers, women, men, people that just want to learn about birth, maybe people that have had their babies, and are no longer in that phase, but maybe they want to heal and understand their births that they had. Maybe they want to learn the information so they can pass it down to their children, because this is generational change. We have a lot of birth workers attend, a lot of people just wanting to gather information. We had a lot of people attend from the States this year, which was incredible, that this message is going widespread. So we're really excited with the impact that this is having. Mhm.
Oh, incredible. And people can like if someone wants to join, we'll obviously have the link in the show notes. Um yeah. And then
Mhm.
everyone can dabble into that and see. So you also talk about a quiet rebellion, that starts in the home and that's interlinked, right? So can you unpack that a bit more and what that looks like for you or maybe not for you, but when women come to you that are new to this concept, um, how it looks like in a day-to-day life in a faith-led family.
Yeah, the Quiet Rebellion. So been working on the Rebel Mama starter guide. So that's coming soon. But it's where we say enough. We're going to stop outsourcing our trust to all these institutions that we have been told to hand over our responsibility to. So we started that with understanding the body. First, it was like, okay, no more. We don't need the well baby visits. Those are unnecessary. Those are just to kind of keep you plugged into the system to promote the fear and get the injections and everything else. So no more. So done with that. We've reclaimed birth. We've reclaimed our health. We understand our perfect divine design and just trusting without fear. We allow the symptoms to be messengers. They're not anything to be fearful of. They're just something to be curious about and aware. And the body knows exactly what it's doing. So that trust, again, kept bringing that back in health and homeschooling, whatever that looks like. Maybe it's a bit of world school, life school, unschool, but taking that back out of the conventional classroom. And food, whether you're growing your own food, canning, preserving, foraging, or making friends with farmers, whatever that might be in your realm. But just understanding, food should be touched by the sun and recognized by the one who created it. And then it goes back into wealth. So that's the other missing piece. That was the last piece for me, was to kind of reclaim our wealth out of the banks, and again away from fake government money. That's all it is. Everything fake food, fake lies about gerbs, the schooling, propaganda, fake paper money. So that is the rebellion of how we are reclaiming. I say reclaiming the womb, reclaiming wealth, and in that reclaiming the family. And that's, to me, the quiet rebellion. Because if all families start doing this, coming together and walking forward in this new path, then I think that's going to be something beautiful to look forward to. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. And you also teach financial sovereignty, right? Through gold, silver, and
Exactly.
legacy building, essentially. So
Yeah.
is this your third business, or hang on,
this
counting,
is
right?
this
Is
is
it the third, fourth?
it's the vehicle that allows it, all of it to kind of take place. So I would say it's the main one, because we
Mhm.
get to link arms with other families. We get to do this together. We were just at an event this past weekend with other families. One friend brought her children. She's still breastfeeding, and it's beautiful that we get to do this together. So that is the main vehicle that allows all these other
Mhm.
endeavors to take place, but through real assets, linking arms, and doing it together, not alone. Through
Yeah.
with gold and silver.
Yeah, I just started in like through someone who came onto my podcast, then became a client, and were, doing things together, linking arms. And she has an incredible membership, and I'm just like learning how to trade against gold. And it's been so much fun. And I feel like, oh my gosh, like everyone should know about this.
Yeah, exactly.
So talk a little bit about the decision. You're now moving to Nicaragua. That's coming up.
Yes.
Why
Yes.
Nicaragua?
Yeah, well, we went there 23, 24. So went for baby girl when she was 6 months old. My husband took parental leave, and we thought, let's go on an adventure. Rented out our house for the year, and we had a few friends that were over there, and it was something totally different and unique from anywhere we had ever traveled to or been to. We're like, let's try it. Let's go visit some friends and check it out and see what we think. And we just, yeah, fell in love with it, and the people. And we have friends there now. The kids have friends, and it just became, I don't know, it felt so much lighter. My body felt it immediately. In 2021, I had gained these 20 pounds that no matter what I did, I could not release. And, I eat well, I'm active, all the things. I tried different things and it just wouldn't. And a few weeks of being over there, it was like my body could finally release and it was gone. Yeah. And then came back to Canada, back on. Mhm. Like
Uh,
pretty quickly. So it's just really interesting. The body knows, the body doesn't lie. I study a lot of, I don't know if any of your listeners or yourself know like German new medicine. So it's that whole idea of fish out of water. So when a fish washes ashore, it wants to hold on to as much water as possible so it can protect itself until the next wave comes to bring it back into the water. So
mm,
our bodies act the same way when we feel like we are out of the water. So think of air, abandonment, isolation, refugee complex, or existential crisis. If we're ever experiencing any of those, it's like we got to protect, we got to hold on to water. And we can hold up to like 40 or 50 pounds of just fluid. Yeah. And our bodies, like that's our protective state until we feel safe again to release. And it's interesting because I just witnessed this again. We were in Nashville this past weekend, and I had to go to the bathroom so much because I was feeling just
Release.
so. I was just releasing. I was like, okay, I'm not in our home anymore. The home kind of has represented the fight. We moved in 2020, and now in Canada, and it's just I'm always so fascinated. The body just always knows. Mhm.
Yes. Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes.
So yeah, sorry, we're off to Nicaragua again,
Yeah.
December 6th, and I'm just so thrilled. Something different. I just always dreamed of this for myself, my children, doing this as a family. I just always thought there was another way to live. It's like I just don't think we're supposed to be trapped in this box on the conveyor belt, going to work, doing the things. It's like there's a whole world out there to experience the culture, the food, the language, the people, just everything. And I'm so thrilled that we've been taking these steps, that we get to do this together as a family. Mhm.
Exciting. So exciting.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Amazing. And I know you'll
yeah.
be in good company. Jan was on the
Yes,
podcast.
exactly.
This is, yeah, these conversations. It's just lights me up. Wonderful.
Yeah.
And for women who are maybe not there yet, but who listen today and say, I got some interesting nuggets, but where do I even start? So what's the first truth to return to, would you say? Or what's a tip you could give someone who wants to but doesn't know how?
Yeah, it depends, like, what area that might be, but normally
Exactly.
it starts with, an inkling, right? A whisper, right?
Mhm.
As I mentioned with my first son, it kinda kept coming up, like, look into food," and I was like, tried to push it aside. Don't push those inklings, those whispers aside.
Mhm.
Lean into them. If something's coming up for you, lean into it. I remember when I was starting to question, the injections for my first child, and I started to bring it up to my pediatrician, I'm not sure anymore, it doesn't feel right. And she just put the fear, like just so much fear on me, where I was like, oh my gosh, if anything were to happen to him, it's all going to be my fault. And I remember walking out of there thinking, never again will I ever make a decision based on fear. If it's
Mhm.
a yes, it has to be a confident yes. If it's a no, then I have to be confident and like just steadfast, convicted, in my decision. So if something's coming up for you, don't push it aside, lean into it, face the fear, and start peeling back those layers. So don't push aside your intuition, your gut instincts. It's coming up for you for a reason. Lean
Mhm.
into it. Mhm.
That's so good. That's so good. And it's the hardest part. Like it takes, but I feel like it's like a muscle. The more you do it, the more you grow confident and the more you
Yeah.
are seeing, oh, hang on, this is what happens when I actually connect with myself, trust myself, don't outsource my power, right? And the decision making gets easier. So I definitely can say that even, and maybe this was all here for us. Um, or maybe, yeah, no, I wanted to say that this for the ones who got through 2020 or the years after, um, and doing it our way, maybe that was here to show us this is what happens when you actually follow your truth and live it and see what happens then around you, because then the world and the reality really changes and the right people are suddenly orbit around you again, right?
Yes.
It's not that you're alone forever. It's just like you have to like, r- yeah, rearrange and
It's the
mm,
stripping away. I look at it now as the stripping away of all that does not serve you, and it hurts and it's hard. But in that time, your chains are also cut, and you finally can actually become who you're meant to be and actually be free and step into that without, once everything's gone. Like you're my, for me, it was like my job. There's friends and family, like the, I mentioned the career, my reputation. That's what I was going to say. Like everything was gone. What was there left to lose? Nothing. So at that point, you get to actually just like walk towards the life that you want. And I am so grateful for 2020 and beyond and all the challenges and changes because it's led me, to where we are now. Yeah.
yeah, fantastic, fantastic. What's one last thing? I mean, you gave away a lot of like good tips and advice, but is there anything else when it comes to sovereignty, when it comes to motherhood, when you say this is something I wish everyone would know? one last piece of nugget.
Mhm. You're doing an amazing job, even on the days when you feel like you don't. Because no matter what kind of life you're creating for yourself, we are our worst critics, and we're always going to think that we could have done this better.
Mm,
Maybe I failed in this, or I could, show up better. But your children chose you for a reason, and you're there for them for a reason, and you're doing an amazing job. So just remember to have grace and mercy on yourself, and just keep walking forward and sharing that with your children every step. Just remember to include them in what you're doing because they listen and they just want to be a part of it. Mm-hmm.
they do, right? Oh, that's so good. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time and these insights, your story. I hope a lot of women will, at least get curious. That's all we ask today. Like, it's not about completely radically changing your entire life. It's a process. Like Kristen shared, it was over the years, right? One thing led to another, and it's not that something is wrong or you need to fix something, but you have to just like come back to trusting yourself again, and then rebuild from there, one step at a time, one topic at a time, and yeah, know that
That's
there's.
so funny. I just wrote a post today
Oh yeah.
about just it takes one. And so it's just interesting. Those were the examples I use, like one step, one move, one action. Like it just takes one. Mm-hmm.
It takes one.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we will link in the show notes. You can reach out to Kristen and find out about all the projects that she's having and going on, and connect with her on social media. Kristen, thank you so much. This was really insightful, amazing, and fun. And I hope we stay connected. And maybe even when you were talking, I was like, oh, Nicaragua. It doesn't sound too bad to me.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
not my
I was
field.
thinking the same about Bali. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
we'll see. We'll
Perfect.
see. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for being
Thanks.
on. And
Thanks for having
next
me.
time.